Okay. So let's just get started. Uh, so let's start painting that. So what I have is my palette. This is the half pan cobalt blue. I don't have cerulean blue, so I'm going to use cobalt blue. And most of the colors are somewhere here. So yellow and all the list of the colors I've actually put it in the description. So you can actually try to go through that. Before that, what we'll do is uh, uh-huh. So I have this water, and then I will be using liner brush and a flat brush. What happened? For me? Right? Okay, sorry about that. So, with me is here, I have my daughter. She will be helping me out here. Okay, let's start. Will not waste any time. So, following that, horizon line is there, but it's not straight enough. So, what I'm going to do here is the foreground is more compared to the top portion above the horizon. So what I'm going to do is I will take half and little bit above half. So that is my horizon, just a rough line. That will be the rough line. So now mountains. So on the right hand side, I'm going to change a little bit of things here. That's basis of composition. So what I'll do here is on the right hand side, it's a very flat mountain. So I'm going to take this as some kind of like that. It's not totally flat. And then one more mountain here, a little bit taller than that. I'm going to take very lightly. I'm actually drawing this very light. Uh, go there. Here is the edge. I'm going to put it this way because what happens is light is from right side. I'm going to change a little bit color here so that I can show more of three-dimensional. So now, if light is from this side, even for this, maybe little bit of like that light is from that side, and on the other side, actually, I cannot leave it white because although it is snow, but still, I would prefer this to be little bit shadow. So, which is actually going to be uh, lighter blue. So, I'm going to use a different blue color because I'm not going to use the same blue. And here, I can leave this as is. Let's put one more mountain. It's just a repetition of things. So here is that. So that's where the mountains are. We'll start what here, nothing to draw. It's just a plain color. This is my trusted flat brush, which is a little bit bigger brush. That's the one which I use for larger areas. Then uh, round brush, this I'm going to use it for gouache because if I want to paint those flowers, I might have to use either negative painting and then wait for that to dry, because I don't want for wait for long time to dry. I'll keep it as is, and then rest of it I'm going to use gouache for only flowers, and rest of it is actually watercolor. And I'm going to use this rigger brush, which is a liner brush. So let's get started with that. So for the sky, I'm going to use this cobalt blue. Cobalt blue, because mountain is white, so most of the white paper I'm going to leave it as is. But I need to show three-dimensional. Like I said, I don't want to leave the entire white as white. So that's where I'm actually going to make sure that the shadow part is actually with some other color. So here I have two options, whether I can actually go with wet and the color. I'm not going to wet this, because to get the brightness of the mountain, this has to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to go darker with this. And if any clouds, we will try to put some clouds. This is just irregular shape. Just some irregular shape. Then after that, we will make this. Okay. I have this cloth here to make sure that I'm actually doing it right here, because I've drawn this very light. Okay, there it is. And here is regular. Make sure the pencil lines are actually very lighter, because it's watercolor. You might actually end up seeing those lines. It's very difficult to erase them after you paint. Okay, although we have painted this just uh, not too blue, but I will still make it a little bit darker so that my mountains are actually going to be. Okay, so let me turn this upside down. I am just going to use this, or otherwise I can use this for a little bit clouds here. Remember that anyways, this is actually going to be, this is the cotton cloth, not uh, not the tissue paper. So you can actually use tissue paper too. This works out very well. I could have done even on wet, but I will just leave it as is. So that should be enough. I will not dilly dally with that, because that's not our main part. Actually, horizon sky has to go a little bit lighter at the bottom, but that's okay. We will just, because once it dries, it will dry lighter anyways. So let it be like that. Let it dry. We'll use some. Although I don't use the hot air blower, but we'll use that for drying this. So now let's keep this aside. I don't need this for now. So now I can paint that, but I don't want to, because that the color might seep into that. Or otherwise, we can actually do it. Let's do it, because anyways, it's just. So what I'm going to do here is I will just take indigo, indigo color, which is, or other paints gray you can take. Indigo I'm taking, which is more of a bluish gray color. That paints gray is also same thing. Uh, Bluish gray. This will represent that grayish, not exactly blue, the shadow part. You can, sometimes you can actually use blue itself. What I'll do is I'll mix that with this blue itself. Let's see, whatever we have, we'll just use this. Very watery, because I need that to be very light on the side. And the reason why I'm using my liner brush is that it helps me to get uh, the shadow side texture. See, now I can use the side of this and then pull it just to get that. See how we get that? it's it is just with the brush, from the side of the brush. It's not exactly, you just have to touch it. But the main thing is try not to take too much of paint. So that's where it lies. You are there again. That's where light is from that side. This side actually has to be a little bit under shadow. See, I'll pull that from top. I'll pull it, make sure that it looks more natural than. So there you go. There. That edge, the edge, why I'm concentrating on this is I can differentiate between the background and the foreground. Again, side. We'll actually put more of those stones, dots. Again, I'll use the same. That's it, not much. And here too, sometimes you will get some of them just like that. Let me pull it that side. Uh, Here, a little bit, right? There, a little bit of that. And you can actually get a little bit of down that side too. Pull it, just pull it from that. Very light. It doesn't have to be exactly white that side, the side of the brush. That's what I'm trying to do. The side of the brush. See the way I'm holding that? I won't play with that much. I'll have to leave it like that. If I want to put, make sure that edge I want to show, put that little bit darker and pull it. Depends how the mountain is, right? So the slope actually depends on how you see it or how you have in your reference. So that is the sharp edge. And again, I'll go back here. Here we didn't put any lines, but even then I'll just put that like that. See, that's how much the paint I had. This will actually give me the texture of the snow itself. Why would I actually see? That actually gave me more of a three-dimensional rather than, you can have two, three values here, colors, different values, but I'm going to use just two of them. So at least you get an idea. I don't want to make it too complicated, right? There. That's a sorry, more of three-dimensional. I think there is some more I can actually put that here, as I can see that it's just pure white there. See the contour, make sure that you actually use the contour. So now at any point of time, if you feel that you need to increase little bit contrast somewhere, take just indigo and put those somewhere here and there. I will pull those colors anyways, just wait for a minute so that I know what I'm pulling there. Just a little bit of that, although it is. So that way actually it gives a sort of punch. I still feel that we are not. Yes, we will go back and put all those darks there anyways, because we need to put those tones. That stone, I will pull this little bit, right, and a little bit darker here too. Remember that it actually dries lighter, so you have to make sure that you use one value higher than required, right? Just trying to get as much as dark here. We'll put some more dark later here somewhere. we'll work on that. As far as I can see, maybe here a little bit darker, there a little bit darker more. We'll put the stones here and there. So I think that should be very good, because see the way that what we have done is, although this is still wet, once it dries it might it'll dry a little bit darker. But now the white and this, if I had painted this dark to light here, and if this was too white, then I will not be able to see the brightness of the snow itself. So that's the reason sometimes what happens is, concentrating on what is important in your painting, you might just sorry, I don't know why. It's actually okay. So now what we'll do is, I will use the same indigo. Sorry, but this time I've taken only just one or two drops, because I want to paint those uh, dark ones. So what I'll do is, here maybe it might have seeped into this, but okay, that's good. Okay, so let's try to put some of those stones here and there. So it's just about this takes time actually. I will try to put as much as possible, so but you get the idea exactly what I'm trying to do, because this don't overdo it again. Depends on exactly how much detail you want to. I'm going to put quite some of it, and then you'll see where it goes. These are all the stones from that mountain that are not much of visible, that are visible, and some of them are not visible. So here little bit is there. I'm trying to look at the reference photo, but going according to what I feel is right too, because not every time you have to compose yourself. But this one is actually most of you feel that when you take a reference, that's exactly it has to be. So I am going according to this photo reference, and we will see here. Not going to put too many of them, but whatever is needed I need to put, so I will put those ones. This is the one, it will take time, and then maybe flowers too, but foreground is not going to take much of time. But I'll put some here if that pink tree is going to come. So I'm not going to, although we are going to use gouache, but I will still try not to touch that area. If you are actually using only watercolor, just make sure two three options you have. Gouache I'm using because I have a restriction of my own restriction of timing here, so that I don't have to wait for a long time. Although I have a hot blower, which is I'm going to use it for drying the foreground once I do that, so that I can start using sorry, start using gouache for the flowers. Otherwise, usually, if you ask me, I don't use, because I let it naturally dry. Very important. That's what I actually always think of like I'll wait for everything to dry. It's not that actually I'm in a hurry. By that time, actually, I can go back and try to paint something else, and then see this is dry. It's very rare. I'll try to complete most of them on the same day itself. If at any point of time, if I paint or record during night times, only then I might continue next day. Very rare cases. Otherwise, I think I've done enough. It feels that here something is not there. Darker value. I need some darker ones here. Stones showing through here. As you can see, the main intention is to make sure that you see both sides, right side and left side. So our anytime if you feel that that is not enough, try to go back. So it's actually going to do every 5 minutes like this. So what is this? Free version is not going to. Okay, so I think we have done enough for the mountain. So what I'll do here is, don't mind the voice behind. There is neighbor dog is there. Here somebody has some other pet, so you can actually hear. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'll wet. This one is actually going to be wet. I will wet this and leave a little bit of space here. We will try to put those colors and green, both of them, right? Okay, so I'm going to wet this part. If you're watching this after the live, you can paint along with this because this is the same pace. The only thing what I might use is, like I said, I will use the blower for drying. Otherwise, I don't know how long it's going to take, but by during that time I can actually talk something about what we have here. So here you should be able to see it's wet, not too much, but it's wet, totally wet. Okay, so now is the time of that grass. Pink I'm not going to use, like I said. So I will use just permanent yellow. Lot of water. It's this one is opaque, so this is actually going to give me enough light here. We'll mix those. It's just the green. Okay, so it's still wet. Don't worry. So I can go with my sap green, sap green, sap green. Okay, so it's not much darker, so I can actually use that. There in that there is something is there on top, so I'm actually going to put some meadow type and leave it just white like that. And here some flowers are actually going to be there, so we will leave it like that. make it very easy, but make sure most of you struggle with the snow-capped mountains. Although it's easy, but you have to play with highlight shadows. Now I will just mix this with the flat side of the brush. I still want to keep that green, yellow, and leave it there. I will go back to Veridian Hue, which is a little bit darker because I need to get a little bit darker shade of green. I could have done this with Sap Green and Prussian Blue, but I'm actually going to go ahead with Veridian Hue and make it a little bit darker here and there. There it's not. I can actually make this darker here. As you can see, my this board is on at an angle of 20 degrees. It's not flat, otherwise there will be a puddle here of this. So I will also do something else. Let's try to put some olive green too. So okay, here olive greens. So what I'm going to do here is I'll mix some colors here, there, not that green, yellow, yellow, right? Not too much of water. And with that itself, I'm going to take some black. That will give me almost olive green. Yeah, that should be enough. As you can see, that's the olive green. That's olive green. Yes, different green. Doesn't have to be same green everywhere. Although it is flowing downwards, but because in the photo they are all mm, some twigs and sticks. So what I'm going to do here is I will just put some lines. So if at any point of time, if we see some lines out there, I can actually use some just simple. I'm not going to dilly dally too much. Somewhere if you feel that it's just there, okay, that this one. Mhm. This is just to show some branches here, so it doesn't matter. But at any point of time, if you feel it's just there, okay, I think that should be enough. That is just to show in between, and then we can use our liner brush to draw some lines later. Ah, what is that? Okay, come this way. Now I'm actually going to use
a hair dryer so that it will dry pretty quickly.
quickly. Okay. Later.
Yeah. Oh, I did it. This one. And it's done. So it's pink.
You don't have to use this, but you just have to wait for.
Just for the simple quick dry. And otherwise it'll take too long to dry.
I usually don't use. The last time I used, I don't know, maybe it was.
I mean, you might spend more.
I don't know. Every 5 minutes it's going. 6 minutes.
You might spend. So because if we don't use the hair dryer, we might end up spending more time on letting it dry instead of letting it instead of painting.
Yes, some drying. So I can actually use gouache for flowers.
And it's also better if we wait for this one to cool down. Otherwise, the paper will be
Mm.
red.
Natural drying is better actually, so I prefer that rather than changing any of these colors.
Than human made drying.
Yeah, artificial drying. Okay, should be enough.
This part became white. This part became white.
That is just how it is shown here. We'll put colors. Okay, let's just take gouache. So I'm straight away going with this is the white gouache. I don't have any other color gouache, but I'll mix that with magenta here. So this is the time I'm going to use this brush that I use for gouache. So let me mix some gouache here.
Especially while painting the flowers, you have to be very patient to get the correct dots.
We can use some old brush, foliage brush, or you can sprinkle it.
Other than watercolor, I would also prefer oil pastel. So oil pastel is very good to do flowers.
Stippling, correct?
Yes, stippling. Or otherwise, you can do like
Okay.
background in watercolor and foreground in the oil pastel. If you don't have oil pastel, you can just do it in watercolors.
Okay, I think that should be enough. Okay, let's see here. This is where I think it's good fast enough. And for this, what I'll do, just a minute. For the faraway ones, I will just use a fan brush. You can use any other fan brush, but I have two different fan brushes, so I'm going to use this here. It comes above the horizon, so you have to be very careful with that. I'm not going darker first, as you can see. There is no darker here, so I can take darker now. It's too much water in that, too much paint.
And the magenta is a very strong color, so make sure that you don't add too much magenta to make the white itself magenta. Magenta is a very strong color, and if you've ever recognized that is true. It is very strong, and I've tried mixing it with white many times. I've tried mixing any color with magenta, and the mark still stayed on my palette. So you don't try to add too much magenta and make the color that you're mixing itself magenta.
Okay, let's
Just
see.
one more drop of magenta to that can make it completely like it is in the paint tube itself. If you don't have a fan brush, you can also use a.
You can use this brush and then keep on repeating.
Yeah, but it'll take too much time though.
That is up to how much detail you want.
When you're doing the foreground, you might want to put more magenta, more detail, more highlights and shadows. The complete foreground, complete four flowers.
Make sure that you get that stipple effect. Otherwise, doing individually is not an option all the time.
And here's another point, make sure you stipple, you don't pull. When you pull, it might look like lines more than dots. So when you stipple, make sure that you don't take the brush off with the line. Just take it off quickly.
I'm adding more white here.
Otherwise, that might
because
end you up with more of lines which look like threads hanging from the ceiling instead of flowers.
yes, it's still not enough. As you can see, my white still not enough there. We'll put the dark later, but at least change the direction of your brush, so you get different effect. As it comes closer, they are actually bigger, so and bigger and more.
And more
Going to,
detail. More detail.
I'm actually going to put more and more here.
If you don't have gouache or you don't have that kind of opaque color, no problem, you can also use your watercolor white, but make sure that you add
No,
only small dot of magenta.
or otherwise acrylic.
Yeah, acrylic's also good though.
You use acrylic, correct?
But otherwise, if you're not comfortable with acrylic like I am, because it dries too fast when you paint too slow. If you don't want that, you can use your normal watercolor white, put full like a paint tube of white and only one dot of magenta. Otherwise, magenta can really get sucked into white.
I'm just going to put some dark here, then we'll work.
We don't even know what kind of flowers exactly they are, because they've taken the photo a little from far, so we don't know exactly how they look like, and we don't know the exact details. We just have to find out. Just have to find out how where you have to put the highlights and shadows. Oh my God.
Yeah, to edit this later. I think I don't know how to edit, but okay. So now, before we move on, I'm going to take some more white gouache here and take some green. Can be any green. I'm going to take this Veridian Hue. I'll mix it with that. Let's see. I think I should be able to just get enough. First, I don't want this to be too dark. First, let's see how this goes mixed with this. Right. Okay. So here, what I want to do here is no, it's not possible. I'm going to use the liner brush and try some lines here. Just which are close by, not. So for this, what I'll do is just take my fan brush again. I'll use that Veridian Hue. That will actually give me more of lines than two at a time. Okay, I will leave it here. Okay, who's connection? Huh? Leave it here. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll paint some dark colors on these flowers. So we know they are there, here and there. Yes, you can actually sprinkle. I'm actually going with. I will come back again with some white. It might not be enough. I think, according to me. Hmm.
This dark is pure magenta without anything added. So that is actually how dark magenta is. Very strong color, very dark color.
I still feel that here it should have been just some green. It's too bright. And
Make sure that you blend it in with the rest of the field.
if you don't, then
Don't make it too dark, otherwise it looks like a ditch.
and there is light, so that should be okay.
When it dries, it'll be better, I hope.
Okay, we can actually take what is that? Foliage brush. I have one, but you can take sponge, and actually use it. Sponge will give you irregular shapes rather than brush.
Brush, you can make like a line of dot of like line of dots, but in the sponge it's not possible.
This is just for watercolor. Actually, I feel that straight away without proper drying layers actually is very difficult for life. Next week I'll try. I've done many acrylic ones, so I think that will be more preferable because watercolor I want that to dry properly, put the lines, everything right. So that's the main thing. I don't want this to look like some patchy fields, but I'll try how it can change. Let's see here. We need to put some white on this. Not hand brush is correct for this, but it looks like actually I'm spending more time just stippling. But okay, just if given an option, I would have used masking fluid for the flowers with some olden brush, painted this, then removed and applied color. Would have been very very straight easy, but the reason why I'm showing you this is that you don't have to go on just buy, but there are too many, some challenges are there, you have to keep it in mind. It cannot be just So what I'm going to do now is I'll just take some fan brush.
Finish the flowers off with the fan brush.
Yeah, I try to make sure that some irregular shapes are there here and there.
All the fan brush gives you smaller dots, whereas round brush will give you bigger dots. If you have recognized that in this live.
I'm trying to see where the repeated patterns are not there. Just to put the feel, maybe the reference photo is a little bit different compared to this, mainly the flower wise. I'm just trying to see wherever it is not. Right. Yeah. So let's just add here too. Like I said, you have different options of using this. This is not my preferred option of painting this. I would use uh, masking fluid, mask this off, and then try to get sorry, I think I've done. What happened? Just a minute. This is not good way. What happened? So now looking at this, I feel that maybe somewhere I'm going to use my different brush. This brush I'm going to use a little bit bigger brush. Wherever I feel that maybe just the sap green itself. I'm going to use sap green itself. Let's just see how I want to get some darkness. That is not possible. So Veridian Hue. Just going to make that some areas little bit darker, at least the corners like vignette type. This is just and a little bit here too. I don't know whether I'm actually making it right or maybe it's spoiling, but I won't touch it. Just leave it like that. I'm not going to do it. I will just use this for some of the flowers which I actually made them vanish here. Just to get some flowers. I think I will leave it here because if I play too much around this, that should be enough. I'm not going to even put that tree, that should be enough. Or otherwise, let's put that tree. It is brownish, so I'm going to use my sepia color here. Or otherwise, I can use my raw umber because branches are not seen much of it. So I'm going to use this just to get that dark. And the tree is somewhere there. Okay, it's behind. Okay, I'm going to do that. Just the darkness. Okay, it's not seen much of it. A little bit darker. That's enough. Then I will use the same color what we had, gouache, because I won't be able to show that. It's not. I'm going to use just a stippling method, just to get that right. Then I will use straight away. I will use magenta, magenta. I will use. Let's just see magenta. Make sure you just stipple it because as you can see from our reference photo, that's what we have. Uh, Underneath the tree, actually, there is shadow which has to be darker or otherwise darker of the same color or otherwise. This is actually, yeah, that's what highlight. Light is from right side. Highlight, if I show, that's what I'll do is just to get the darker at the bottom. I'm just going to take a little bit of black at the bottom. I'll touch a little bit so I don't spoil the tree. This is just to show. Am I not getting that black? Yes, just to at the bottom. Light is from that side, so somewhere it has to have some shadow, right? So that is what, it's not that distinct, so you have to keep that in mind. I just painted, but I still feel that this should have been in the back, and then again go back, painted that, that's in the back. Like I said, I would have actually given it more time for myself. Main thing to learn from this is actually whatever I can say is concentrate on mountains. Actually, I've spent more time rather than the foreground would have been a little bit entirely different, maybe plain field. So depending on that, you can actually paint anything. So let me just remove this border and then see how it looks. Just that. So what we can do here is that, and okay, the last one. That's what we have. Although I try to do it live, mainly watercolor. So that's what we got. The foreground could have been a little bit better if the time was we had enough time, mainly for drying, right? So that is the layer application. So we concentrate on that. Although we have used gouache here, otherwise drawing gum, erase them, then put the color. So it is just the perspective and mainly concentrate on the mountains, which is very important for the foreground. You can change at any time. You can just put plain field, or you can put a river,
You can put
mountain.
a barn.
You can put anything. So that's about it for today, and then I'll see you next Sunday. Um, we will do acrylic painting
I really
better
hope
because
that
at
if
least
you
it will be easier.
I really hope that if you followed along, I hope that you're as satisfied as we are for your
And
painting.
try this. Let me know how it turns out. It's just the real time.
Tell us in the
And
comments.
comments, and then don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next week again. If you are watching other videos, enjoy those videos because I do the same thing. But main thing is I wait for certain things to try and then go back, plan it accordingly so that I can paint. So I'll see you next week again. Bye bye.
I'll come back too.
Mhm.